Hello, Bible readers. It's Tuesday, February 2nd. We're reading Proverbs, the second half of the 22nd chapter through 24. And then John, we're finishing it up. Chapter 21, verses 1 to 25. We'll be done with the Gospels after today. Okay, so the Proverbs reading, I wanted to share with you, I didn't know this before, but this section of Proverbs is connected intimately with, like really closely to, an Egyptian instruction book. I'm just going to read a paragraph of my commentary. When the Egyptian instruction of Amenemopi, if I'm mispronouncing that, I'm sorry, ancient Egyptian scholars. When that was discovered in the 1920s, the study of Israelite wisdom was revitalized. The present section of Proverbs, that's what we're reading today, 22 through 24, appeared to be dependent upon that Egyptian work. Though contrary theories exist that the Egyptian and Israelite works each borrowed from an earlier work, or maybe the Egyptian work borrowed from Proverbs, most scholars believe that this section of Proverbs shows a creative use of the Egyptian work, a work written late in the second millennium BCE. That's a long time ago. The sayings of the wise are generally admonitions. I think of admonitions as being that. Brief, positive or negative precepts followed by positive or negative motive clauses that provide reasons for obeying the precept. The admonitions are much briefer than the long instructions in chapters 1 through 9, and also much more diverse in the topics of their advice. The reader is addressed directly in the second person, implying that one can't be an uninvolved observer of wisdom, as if its teaching pertains to someone else, but must take a personal response to wisdom's demands. So that's the feel of these readings today in Proverbs. In chapter 24, it really gets at how the truest test of a person's character is adversity, not just for a person, but a nation, a family, a community. Adversity is what tests the character. I was thinking about that as we continue to live through this COVID crisis. Okay, so then to finish up John, this too I thought deserved a more, I don't like to just read out of the commentary to you, but I want you to understand what scholars think about, like, where is this coming from as far as authorship, because sometimes that sheds light on what does this really mean, especially as compared to the rest of the gospel. So the consensus of scholarly opinion is that John chapter 21 is a secondary addition to the fourth gospel, and that it should be interpreted as a postscript or epilogue. Scholars are divided on whether the material in John 21 was added later by the evangelist himself, John, or someone else, although the latter theory, that it was written by someone else, is more widely held. Here's an interesting thing, though. There's no manuscript evidence. So when we find an ancient, almost looks like an original manuscript of the Gospel of John, there's no manuscript that exists without the 21st chapter. And that's why, unlike the Gospel of Mark, where most Bibles will say this is an addition. Typically Mark ends with the 8th verse of chapter 16, and that's it. But John has never been found to not have chapter 21. Okay. The secondary status of John 21 is argued, though, on two basic grounds. Number one, John 20, verses 30 and 31, seem to bring the gospel to a close. Like when we finished the 20th chapter, it felt like it was done. And number two, that's the most obvious one, by the way. Number two, Jesus' post-resurrection appearances in John 21 introduce a churchy focus that is secondary to the concerns of John 1 through 20. I added the word churchy. I'm just trying to make it easier. They've used bigger words. And those church questions are, how is the community going to live in the absence of Jesus? What shape will the church's life take? How will they endure persecution and the world's hatred? How will they experience Jesus' presence? What will their identity be as a people of faith? Jesus addresses these and other questions with words of hope and promises of his presence in chapter 21. Chapter 21 shows the reading community what the promises of the farewell discourse mean for them by illustrating the disciples' lives after Jesus' hour. The stories in John 21 are not resurrection stories per se, because their focus is not on Jesus' resurrection and ascension. That was the theological heart of John 20. Rather, the focus of 21 moves beyond Jesus' resurrection to the future, of which he spoke in the farewell discourse. This chapter, 21, invites the reader to envision how the community of disciples can continue to experience Jesus' post-glorification presence and carry his work forward. So that's what this 21st chapter is about. Maybe it is an addition, but even if it is, it's always helped the church understand what the farewell discourse meant and how we are to live. The absence of Jesus, that's the wrong phrase, in Jesus being resurrected. I am one with my God. My God is with us, all of us, at all times and in all places.